Hi guys, welcome to the Safe Path Veterinary Services. In our video series related to the veterinary officer exam, this is our next video. In this video, we are going to discuss some things related to the reproduction, veterinary reproduction. First of all, if we are going to talk about some important features of bovine reproductive system, these include we can palpate the reproductive system of bovines directly. Their cervix, uterus, and ovary. Different structures on the ovary, like the follicles and the corpus luteum, and the uterus, its consistency, its bifurcation, all can be felt, and the cervix, cervical rings, that all can be felt by the rectal palpation. Now, uterine bifurcation can be properly felt by the rectal palpation. Cervix and its multiple rings around the lumen can be felt. Cervix is used as landmark for the rectal palpation. The age of a bovine male at the puberty is 7 to 18 month, nor on average 11 month, and age of female on average is 11 month at puberty and 9 to 24 month range. Puberty means the ability of a male or female when the endocrine and the reproductive functions of its gonads start. And the gestation length in the bovines is 9 month plus minus 9 days. Mean ninth month 9 days are 9 or 8 month, and you can say 21 days. If we are going to talk about the type of placenta and the bovines, that is cotyledonary. Cotyledonary means that these are the discrete bead-like cotyledons on the surface of the uterus, that where the connections are formed between the uterus and the fetal membranes. If we are going to talk about the type of tissues that connect between fetal portion and the maternal side, and then this type of placenta is the syndesmocorial. In this condition, you can see the convex form of the cotyledonary placenta in the case of cow, and the concave type of the cotyledonary placenta in the form of sheep and goat. Here are some types of placenta based on the type of tissue participation from the fetal side and the maternal side. You can see in the middle there is the epithelium from the fetal and the maternal side. In the top side there is connective tissue and the endothelium of the tissues of the blood vessel. And in the lower side there is the connective tissue and the endothelium of the blood vessel on the maternal side. If we have, as we have discussed previously, in the case of the bovine, there is syndesmocorial placenta. It means the placenta, in this placenta there is the participation of the epithelium from both sides, and in this case the maternal epithelium, the participation of maternal epithelium is disrupted at times, and then there is the passage of nutrients, and then it is reformed, and then again you can say it is disrupted. You can categorize it as the epithelial corial, or we can further recategorize it as the syndesmocorial, because its epithelium on the maternal side is disrupted and then reformed. Next is the endothelial corial. In this condition, the whole epithelium on the side of the mother is disrupted, and the epithelium of the fetal side, that is continuous with the endothelium of the blood vessels of the maternal side. In the hemocorial, the epithelium of the fetal side is continuous with the blood of the fetal side. There is no barrier between the blood and the epithelium of the fetus. If we are going to talk about the stages of Astral Cycle in the bovines, these include the proestrus, estrus, metaestrus, and diestrus. You can see in the figure at the estrus is categorized by the estrogen peak, leukotropic hormone peak, and FSH peak. Soon after the peak of the LH and FSH, there is ovulation, and the metaestrus is represented by the elevation in the peak of the P4, and during the peak of the P4 it is diestrus, and at the end of diestrus the corpus luteum starts regression and the P4 decrease. And in the proestrus there is decrease in the P4, and there is elevation in the LH and estrogen. If we talk about the important features of the equine reproductive systems, it is also palpable correctly. Here the landmark is the ovary. For the rectal palpation, only follicles can be felt, and corpus luteum cannot be felt on the rectal palpation of the equine reproductive system. The cervix is soft during the heat, that is why it is not used as the landmark. Ovulation takes place just as one point called ovulation fossa. In contrast, in the case of the you can say bovines, the ovulation can take place at the any point on the ovary. The placenta in this condition is diffused and epithelio-corial. As we have discussed the epithelio-corial in the in the previous slides, the diffused kind of placenta you can see here. There are the microcotyledons that are diffused on the surface of the uterus, all over the surface of the uterus, not just in a one part that are diffused. Age at puberty in the case of male is 10 to 24 months and average is 14 months, and in the case of female that is 12 to 19 months and 18 months in the age of the female on average. Gestation length is the 11 month plus minus 11 days. If we are going to talk about the stage of estrus, these are the same: proestrus, estrus, metaestrus and diestrus. You can see at the point of estrus there is an LS surge and the elevation of the estrogen, and ovulation takes place, and next is the elevation of the progesterone, and progesterone takes the peak. Next is the release of the PGF2 alpha, and soon after the release of PGF2 alpha there is a regression of corpus luteum and the progesterone block is broken down, and next cycle starts. In the case of bitch, the stages of Astral Cycle are the proestrus, estrus, diestrus and anestrus. The placenta is zonary and endothelial-corial. Age at puberty is 5 to 12 months, on average 9 months in the case of male, and 6 to 24 months, on average 12 months in the case of female. The gestation length is the 2 months, that is also known as diestrus of the bitch. This is the zonary placenta in the case of the bitch. You can see there is a zone of the attachment between the fetal and the maternal side capillaries. In the case of we talk about the Astral Cycle, you can see here the estrus. Just before the estrus, there is a peak of the LS surge and the FSH and E2, and soon after the release of the after the LS surge and P4 LS surge and E2, after 2 to 3 days there is a ovulation and the copulation take place. And there is due to the formation of the corpus luteum, and there is the release of progesterone, and the progesterone block maintains if there is the pregnancy, and it maintains in the diestrus for 2 months naturally. If it is pregnancy or there is no pregnancy, this condition is also known as pseudopregnancy if there is no pregnancy in the case of bitch and the corpus luteum does not regress. Then there is anestrus. Anestrus is the period when there is no heat in the case of the bitch. If we're going to talk about the important feature of the reproductive system of the queen, its estrous cycle consists of the estrus and diestrus. Estrus means in this period the queen is in heat, and diestrus means this is the period of the you can say P4 block. Either it is in the case of you can say this only happens when there is the mating takes place, because it is the induced ovulator, and if mating does not take place, the bitch cannot and the queen cannot ovulate, and it further goes into interestrus period of 17 days, and next heat comes after the 17 days. If in the condition mating takes place and ovulation takes place, then there is a period of diestrus. If the conception takes place, then it is the gestation length. If conception does not take place, then it is simply diestrus. The placenta is the same zonary, same as the bitch. It is the zone of the attachment between the maternal side membranes and the fetal side membranes. And endothelial corial means there is the endothelium and the chorionic epithelium that are in direct contact with each other. The age of puberty is 8 to 10 months in the case of male, and 4 to 12 months in the case of the female. On average there is 9 month age of puberty at for male and 8 months for the female. Gestation length is 2 months. If we're going to talk about the Astral Cycle, you can see here is the E2 peak. Next there is no you can say mating, and there is a period of the interestrus. Next after 17 days there is the estrus, and the period is also known as the post-estrus or interestrus. If the mating takes place, then there is the period of the pregnancy, and next parturition takes place. If we are going to talk about some heat signs, there are two kinds of the heat signs, some of the primary and some of the secondary. In the case of primary heat signs of the bovines, the primary heat sign is the stand to be mounted. And when the animal is in heat, in the case of bovine, it stands to be mounted by another animal. It does not, you can say, resist any animal to be for mounting. In the case of secondary signs, there is mucus discharge from the reproductive system and swelling and reddening of the vulva, bellowing, it produces several kinds of sounds, rubbed tail head hair, dirty flank, raised tail head hair, sniffing and licking, restlessness. These are the secondary signs of the heat. There is only one primary sign, that is stand to be mounted. If animal is standing to be mounted, then it is in the heat, that is the primary sign. If we are going to talk about the signs of pregnancy, there are again primary sign and secondary sign. And at the end of the first month, the first primary sign of the pregnancy appears, that are the amniotic vesicle. And next is the slip membrane test. At the 5th week of the pregnancy, the chorial and ties can slip on each other, and this is called the slip membranes that can be felt at the 5th week of the pregnancy. And at 45 to 50 days of pregnancy, the fetus itself can be felt. And 12 to 10 to 11 weeks of the pregnancy, the crunkles can be felt. The secondary signs include asymmetry of the horns if are palpated correctly, and middle uterine artery diameter increases, and the corpus luteum. These are secondary signs of the pregnancy. Signs of parturition include the udder development, appearance of the water bag, red and swollen vulva with the blood tinged fluid secretion, and the relaxation of the pelvic ligament and the perineum, and the restlessness of the animal. All these signs show that the animal is near to parturate or near to parturate. If we are going to talk about the stages of parturition, there are three stages of parturition: initiation of the myometrial contraction, next is the expulsion of fetus, and next final is the expulsion of fetal membranes. Here are different durations for the three stages of the parturition. In the case of cow, the first stage is 2 to 6 hours, second stage is 30 to 60 minutes, and third stage is of 6 to 12 hours. In the case of mare, the first stage is 1 to 4 hours length, and the second stage is 12 to 30 minute duration, and third stage is 1 hour lengthy. In the case of ewe, 2 to 6 hours is the length of the first stage, and 30 to 120 minutes is the length of second stage, and 5 to 8 hours is the length of the third stage. In the case of queen, 4 to 42 hours is the length of the first stage, 30 to 60 minutes is this you can say length of the second stage. Per kitten, and its expulsion of fetal membrane takes place mostly with the expulsion of the fetus. In the case of bitch, there is 6 to 12 hours takes in the first stage of the parturition. In the second stage of parturition, there is 6 hours, and in 24 hours in the case of large litter, and mostly the fetus membranes are expelled with the fetus within the 15 minutes of the fetal expulsion. If we are going to talk about difference between polyestrus and monoestrus, polyestrus are the animal if there are many heats in heat cycles in a year. These include cow, queen, pig, and rodent. Some are the seasonally polyestrus, which have the many heat cycles, but only in a particular season, like the short day breeders, which breed in September, October, and November. These include ewe, doe, elk, and any. Only they have the many heat cycle during this period. And the long day breeders, which breed in the April, May, and June, which include the mare, they have many heat periods after every 21 days, but during the long days. In the case of monoestral, they have a single heat cycle around a year. Mostly, they have March and April of their heat cycle, and these include dog, wolf, fox, and bear. In the case of there are some animals which are induced ovulator, like queen and camel. They only ovulate when there is a mating takes place. In the case of no mating, there is a no ovulation. If we are going to talk about the Astral Cycle and the length of the estrus or heat length in different animal, in the case of cow, the Astral Cycle is of 21 days, and the estrus length is 18 hours. In the case of ewe, 17 days is the Astral Cycle, and 29 hours is the length of the estrus. In the case of mare, the Astral Cycle is 21 days lengthy, and the estrus is 4 to 8 days. In the case of queen, 17 days is the length of estrus, and 9 days is the length of the estrus. In the case of bitch, 6 months is the length of the estrus cycle, and the length of estrus is the 9 days. Thank you very much. This is our first video related to the reproduction. If you found it helpful and informative, please subscribe to the channel and like the video. Thank you very much.